And we are recording with my buddy, Mr. David Gosselin, on Wednesday, September 6th, 2023 at 3:11 p.m. Eastern time. And I was just telling him beforehand, how can I trust you anymore? And it's not based on anything. It's just a sentence that I feel like you can kind of say. And in a way, it's almost always applicable. Me and my buddy Drew have been doing that. It's just sentences like, it doesn't matter. We saw a meme. It was like, it took me 28 years to realize you never need to pay attention at work. It's just when your boss is finished talking to you, you just got to look them in the eye and go, listen, I think it's all about finding a balance. It just
Right.
doesn't matter anymore. And I'm thinking that's more and more what I need to incorporate into this podcast is if I ever like zone out and then realize the guest is finished talking and I don't know what they're saying, I need kind of like like a pocket statement or something and be like, listen, man, humans aren't perfect. Like something like that, you know?
Well, I mean, yeah, well, there's a lot there's a lot of that, admittedly, as well. So it's I guess it depends what our intention is. But yeah, number one, happy summer.
Yeah.
I mean, we're having a heat wave over here, which is nice actually. I kind of like it when it's kind of it's so hot that you almost feel like you have malaria. Like you're very
Yeah.
sweaty and kind of slothful. For some reason, I like that.
Like
So,
lethargic, kind of like
yeah, yeah.
slow in speech. You're like, hey, yeah, hi, thank you.
I'm in the tropics. We're in the tropics right now. So how's Transcendence going?
Listen, I'm a transcendent man. Hold on, I'm posting the live link. Um, yeah, I don't know, dude. Everything's kind of been going good. I've been taking it slower and slower in the podcast. Actually, I've gone on about 2 weeks now. Oh yeah, I mean, I told you that's why I rescheduled this. Of just doing one a day, and man, like all jokes aside, I'm not only is it better for like my mental health, but I'm like really starting to like love the podcast again. I think for a while I had started to it happened slowly and I didn't realize it, but I was simply viewing it as work and work sucks. And so I just started
Right.
being like, just gotta knock
And
this book.
success is dangerous.
Yes. Yes. Go into
Success is,
that. Go into that. Why is it dangerous?
well, I mean, so the title of this show, keying off, Prophet of Our Modern Age, Tim Dillon, is boredom, abundance, and transcendence.
Yeah.
And we want to bunch that all together, because we live in an age of abundance, as a lot of people would observe. Now, is that going to last? No, of
No.
course not.
No. Not at all.
But, Tim Dillon observed that, I forget in which pot, he's observed it many times, but there was the one on Ocean Gate where it just made the point that money has a very anesthetizing effect on people, wealth, especially people who are brought up into wealth, generational wealth. And there's a lot of people who are not wealthy, of course. They still live in a wealthy society. So, relative to the rest of the world, there's still plenty of abundance, but they assume that, it would be so great to just be super wealthy and that most of their problems would be fixed, right? If they just had that abundance. But Tim Dillon makes the point that actually, no, you have to get used to boredom and abundance. You have to embrace the profound boredom then that comes with having so much abundance. Now,
Mm.
and we can observe that, right? That a lot of people who uh, have done well. I mean, we see this in our political classes, right? We see this in the upper economic layers of society that people are kind of out to lunch, and there's some bad guys. There are a couple bad guys who are well organized, and it's easy to manipulate these people who are out to lunch as well because they don't really have a visceral sense of the consequences of a lot of things. Even as our whole society, right? Western society is kind of coming apart. If you ask people who are more well off, they don't, they just assume like, hey, there's cycles, there's always ups and downs, and da-da-da. They don't necessarily have a forecasting ability. They're keying off their own personal circumstances and, assessing reality largely based on how they're doing, right? And so if you're in a class of people that the most of the, Julian Huxley, one of the bad guys, but an interesting observation he made was that in the 20th century, for the first time, humanity has reached a point where it's no longer about the struggle for survival, but the struggle for fulfillment, right? To attain that deeper thing, that deeper sense of meaning. So for a lot of the boredom and abundance class, that Tim Dillon likes to talk about, yeah, they've gone so far into the abundance that, and I'm neither fulfillment nor, struggle for survival. It's just blah, abundance. And that's why you get every once in a while one of these people, ends up dying in a submarine at 3,000 feet below the sea because they wanted to feel something, right? They wanted to feel alive. And so they did something crazy. And I know there's another Rockefeller son that he ended up, dying in a swamp, like and getting killed by an alligator or something. He wanted to be a naturalist and adventurer, and that's what happens to some of these people.
Yeah.
They try and break out.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the struggle for fulfillment is actually much more difficult. Survival is like, and it's a weird catch-22 because you can only say that statement once you're no longer fighting for survival, right? There's a thing where it's like there is something so, in hindsight, meditative and pure about just trying to fucking make it, just trying to survive, food, water, shelter, and like not being raped by a homeless man. It's so clear. It's so true. There's no, do I like this? Do I not? Is this really my scene? There's just something so, like, have you ever like tried to, you ever been driving like by yourself in like the middle of nowhere at night and you're like not sure if you're gonna make it to the next gas station, and you're like not accelerating too fast, you're making sure to like roll down hills, and you're like, dude, if this fucking car stops. I remember the first time I visited my buddy when he moved to Baltimore. It was the first time I was visiting. It was like snowy 2018, and I'm just going through like the ghetto. I don't mean like, oh, they're black people. I mean like, no, legit fucking ghetto. And I was
Yeah,
running low on gas and I didn't have any fluid in my windshield wiper. And there was just something, I wasn't worried about I've heard this song before. There wasn't like, what are we gonna do when we get there? There was
yeah,
something just so pure about like, I can't run out of gas and I have to see out of my window or I'm fucked. And there's a
yeah.
beauty in that. And I think
It's
once you,
humbling.
yeah, but it's also like, there's no wiggle room. There's no like, do I really love this person? It's just like, dude, it's me and David, and we're running out of food, and that fucking lion's looking at us. How are we
Yeah,
gonna kill it? I got a rock. Okay, I'll distract it. David, hit it with the fucking rock.
right.
Right.
That's not great.
And then now it's like, you know, it's like we're doing the podcast, and it's like, well, what am I gonna do after this? And I got my ice water, and do I really want to play Battlefield tonight? You're just kind of, there's like a meandering sort of like about it. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
of course I do, and I have been in the car. I mean, there were no lions, but yeah, where you're kind of letting the slopes carry
Yeah.
the car as much as I wasn't driving. I the life in the big city. I don't actually drive. I take the metro. We have a good
Yeah.
subway system
And
here.
you
It's,
ain't nowhere near a fucking city. It's life in the
exactly.
big city. But there, about that. So, but start to keep rambling on is, and what you said about like kind of like the wealthy class of. I remember seeing some meme a couple months ago, and it was like, only in America are people not worried about societal issues. They're all just worried about making enough money so that they no longer have to worry about societal issues. I'm like, no, that's human nature. And that's kind of like why people come here, is you don't have to worry about Bob. Hey, Bob's running out of money. It's like, dude, that sucks. My podcast is doing well. Like, that's
Yeah,
all that's all human nature is. And I think I used to look at it like, dude, the people in charge are rich. Like you said, they're out to lunch. They're not necessarily worried about like the cycles of Western society. And now I look at it like, I'd like to get so rich that I don't care either. Because like, yeah, eventually it comes
And
crashing
that's
down.
dangerous.
It's very
That's
dangerous. But when it's all fucked anyway, eventually I want to get so rich that I'm not that worried that the Titanic kind of sloping. Yeah, just let me in a lifeboat. I don't care. Like,
right,
just numb me. I don't care.
right.
Maybe I'm
Right.
going over a black hole edge. I don't know.
I know. Well, I mean, no, there's three words. There's three things, elements in this show, right? So there's boredom, there's abundance, and then there's transcendence,
Mm-hmm.
which hopefully we'll get to. But I'm not in a rush. Um, yeah. So I think to understand how to save Western civilization, now to throw out some crazy, like big, grandiose sort of like Bible style
Yeah.
themes here. Because yeah, I there's definitely what that doesn't last forever, right? The honeymoon period of America and the West, it's not going to last forever. Now, ideas, right? True ideas are immortal and they can't be killed, you know, even if, let's say, ancient Greece, Athens, Plato, Socrates, like Greece is a total throwaway today as a country, right? And in terms of that geographical location, like where's all your new great art, all these things, if you guys were like the cradle of civilization, that is gone, right? But the ideas have continued and the ideas migrate and they find a home somewhere else. Sometimes it takes hundreds of years, sometimes it takes thousands of years. So I do think it's a question of our identity, our like what is the scope of our identity. And Plato introduces, for example, in his Republic, he has different categories. He says there's many kinds of men as there are kinds of states. And so he lists the six main characters, right? At the bottom, lowest tier is the tyrant. Above that is the Democrat, the democratic man. And above that is the oligarchs, the plutocrats, or the plutocrats. And then in the on the upper sphere, you have the Timocrats, Timos having to do with honor and justice, so like they're guardians of honor and justice. You have the aristocrats, which Aristo is excellence, and Katos is strength, right? So you have rule by a timocratic rule, a rule, based on justice and honor. So you have like the Homeric Bronze Age kind of thing. You can think of like the heroes and the glory and the aristocrats, is the classical man, refined in their manners and their tastes, and they like ideas. They love, for the Timocrats, the aristocrats, and at the top you have the philosopher kings, the philosophical souls. They love beauty, truth, and goodness. They love the real thing. The lower tier, the oligarchs, the plutocrats, the democrats, and the tyrants, they don't love the real thing. They operate in a world of imitation, right? What Plato calls mimesis. So it's always this dance between love of the real thing versus imitations. And how can we distinguish imitations from the real thing? Idea being that ultimately the fate of any republic or civilization depends on whether we can distinguish imitations from the real thing. In our society, that's the catch with the abundance and the wealth. You can forget certain things that people learned or had to know when they were building up the society, right? When they were participating in actually, when America was industrializing and this whole middle class
Mm-hmm.
was appearing, and there was a sense that like the average household should, if we're to be governed, the governed have a say in how they're governed, right? In the people and the people who govern them. It's a divine right. So you're more, people are a bit more conscientious, right? Because it's still it's in the living development phase. It's not where everything is established and everything is nice. Roman Empire in its sort of heyday. It's the same story, right? So the challenges are different depending on where we are in that hierarchy. And I think that, yeah, the problem is, yeah, abundance. Again, it has that anesthetizing effect, and so that's where the bad guys can get in, right? And I have a quote here that I liked that I'll throw in here. It's by Aldous Huxley. It's from his Perennial Philosophy, I believe, his book, which is an interesting book. But he writes, if most of us remain ignorant of ourselves, it is because self-knowledge is painful and we prefer the pleasures of illusion. So that's the imitation, right? And in an abundant age, you have access to a lot of imitations, right? The Brave New World, Soma industry, right? The entertainment
Mm-hmm.
industrial complex that we have. Just pick your thing, right? Pick your poison, pick the thing that you want to be distracted by. And when you're tired of being distracted by that, you can be distracted by another thing. And that helps to cover up, right? The if we're keying off this quote, the pain of self-knowledge. Now I would say Huxley's only gone halfway though, because yeah, there's going to be a pain to self-knowledge, right? There's always like uh, a difficult or a
Barrier to
part.
entry.
Yeah, and so this is where, do we let ourselves become transfigured by the pain and the suffering,
Yeah.
having an of the world, because the world by its nature, right, there it's not possible to avoid
Yeah.
suffering.
Life is
And
suffering.
a lot of cults and shit are based on selling people the idea that they can escape suffering. And the more access to abundance, money, and wealth we have, the more empowered or we feel in our ability to negate that suffering. But the question is, what happens when we don't make it to the other side because we have enough luxury to put off the transfiguring, right? Or we get crushed by it, right? So what's needed to allow ourselves to be fully transfigured by it, not to run from it, but then to actually make it to the light, right?
Mm.
That the pain and the illusions, breaking away from our illusions, the things that we love, especially the more we're in love with the world, somewhere in scripture it says, don't fall in love with the world. That doesn't mean hate the world or reject the world, which is the other extreme, right? And Tim Dillon's always good at this, is identifying, like, people always fall into extremes.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, the reason that I'm a good judge of character is because I don't deal in extremes. Few people are all good or all bad. And so when we look at people, we have to be able to assess the person as a person without all these like tribal
Mm.
identities and biases or our own illusions that we don't question, but we find it easy to poke holes in other people's illusions,
Mm.
right? So I think the real thing is when we have that experience of removing illusions. And for some people, it's harder than others. They've had harder things, right? I mean, if we're reading some stuff, Thompson cover up, all these things, yeah, a lot of people, there's people who've been through really bad stuff. But I think, yeah, that's the goal, to, if we can do that and let ourselves be transfigured by that, then we go past the pain, we go past the darkness, and you know things start to get brighter inside. More light is allowed inside, and things become clearer on the outside. As a result, we start to see more clearly, and even a lot of people who seem to be kind of acting demonish, demons from hell, as Tim Dillon would say, we see something inside them that they have failed to discover,
Mm.
which is the true tragedy, because they're not born demons. At least we'll assume that for most, they're not born demons. They were babies. They were just
Yeah.
little happy babies, and
Yeah.
or maybe they weren't happy babies, and that's the problem. But yeah, so I think, and this is where great art actually comes in as well, right? Like, how do we illustrate and capture that, making it to the other side, right? That journey, right? In Homer, the hero's journey, making it back home to Ithaca, Odysseus, Dante, going through
Mm-hmm.
the Inferno and Purgatory and making it to paradise. These things aren't going away, right? They're a thing. And yeah, I think it's useful to take time. Like, different people get stuck in different places. We've all been stuck in different places in that journey. And depending on where we're stuck, right, there are certain things that we either figure out so that we can continue to transcend, or we plateau. And usually when we plateau, you regress, right? Like,
Mm.
entropy sets in. There's no just like cruising
There's no pausing.
for infinity, just
Yeah.
cruising at like, I'm perfectly transcended. Thank you. I'm going to the beach now.
Yeah. That no, that's something that dawned on me in college was that it is more like a seesaw. And it's like you're either falling one way or the other. I just found after like trying so hard on so many different times, I was like, I'm either like drinking and smoking pot too much and becoming like a piece of shit, or it's like I'm working hard, I'm waking up earlier, I'm meditating, I'm dieting, and I'm getting better. And I was like, I tried to walk that middle line so many times, and it was like a tightrope. It was like you eventually fall one way or the other. What you said about transfiguring is, I think you and I have talked about this before with like working out is is the thing about, I think it's that quote, is it Thomas Edison? It's like opportunity is missed out on people because it's disguised as hard work. There is something where it's
Right.
like when you first start getting into, even if you've been working out forever, take a week or two off, and yeah, it's hard getting right back into it. And there's this, or getting sober, right? Taking time off from alcohol. I think we talked about this last time as well. It's immediately when you first look at working out or dieting, there's this illusion of going, all right, well, no more McDonald's and no more happiness. I guess I got to go lift weights, right? Or it's like getting sober and you're like, I guess Friday nights aren't that high of, pouring your first shot or you're cracking that first beard. And it's like, let the good times roll.
Right.
Versus once you actually start to work out or start to diet or take a week or two off from alcohol, there's this thing that you're almost like, wait, what is this? What is this like good feeling? This was supposed to be hell. I've accepted that I'm in hell now. And all of a sudden you're like, I'm not spending as much money. I'm not hungover. Or you start going to the gym and you're like, shit, like I can kind of fit in my pants better. You're like, what the fuck is this? And it's hidden right under the surface. It's like, oh yeah, no, it's disguised as hell. But you start doing it, and if you let it destroy you, you start to, and what you said is perfect. The light inside starts to arrive and then get brighter, and it's the most real light there is. It's not the illusion. It's not the a new video game, this is great, new song. It's not these quick ephemeral highs. It's the
Yeah.
realest fucking thing of like, nothing is more satisfying. No new song, no new pussy, no new drug, nothing will ever compare to like that feeling of like when you just leave the gym and like you didn't want to go, but you did it, and you leave and you're just like, let's fucking go. Like I did it. Like, and so it's a weird thing though. So if you start to look at that, so what are we saying? It's like behind the door, it's disguised as hard work and suffering. And it's a creaky door, and you go, oh fuck, and you open it, and then it's like sunshine. Well, if all of life is suffering, well, doesn't that start to bring up the idea that it's just it's nothing but doors that can lead to sunshine and brightness?
Right.
And then you go, oh, is this hell or is this heaven?
Yeah, and
Weird,
I mean,
weird thing to look at. It's a weird idea to ponder.
we're getting at the big questions now, which is fun. And yeah, I think that's the thing. Once we, in the other discussion, a recent discussion that I had for one of the shows that I'm doing now, the title was The New Aristocrats.
Yeah.
And so we took a look at one of the characters in the upper realm of Plato's Republic, You know, like what does it mean to have a true aristocratic bearing in education? Aristocratic not having to do with like hereditary bloodlines and vampire cults and like all these things, eating babies. No,
Yeah,
it's
not
not what
that.
we're talking about.
And if you're confused by that statement, you need to listen to Tim Dillon and please get on the level of David and
Yeah,
myself. Sorry,
yeah.
continue.
It's catch up time if that's
Listen, if you haven't read the Franklin Scandal, get the fuck out. All right, it's just
yeah.
what it is.
And so the I'm gonna read a second quote that I just wrote down two quotes because we wanna get to the threshold. So the poet Friedrich Schiller, he talks about the idea of the sublime, and the sublime is a popular, or it's a no, it's a well-known concept in art. So it's not beauty per se, right? It's not just like perfect sort of harmony and pleasure and delight in something perfect. There's a bit of there's turbulence, there's a shudder. He talks about it as like the sublime is a mix of woefulness, a kind of excited shudder, and a kind of divine joy. And he gives this quote. He says, so we're talking about breaking away from illusions, right? In our last quote, or that we love our illusions. And the pain of breaking with our illusions is very great. So Schiller writes, beauty in the form of the goddess Calypso has enchanted the valiant son of Ulysses, and through the power of her charms, she holds him for a long time imprisoned upon her island. For long, he believes he is paying homage to an immortal deity, since he lies only in the arms of voluptuousness. But a sublime impression seizes him suddenly in the form of Mentor. Mentor's Athena. He remembers his better destiny, throws himself into the waves, and is free.
Hmm.
So this is from Homer. Schiller's describing, the sublime, an instant of the sublime in the Odyssey, where the guy realizes that the goddess Calypso, who's like the perfect, we'll give her, she's the, I'm so bad with names, but yeah, she's that Megan, what's her name or whatnot. We'll just call her the Megan. Anyways, I forget. She's a big celebrity. I don't
Uh,
watch many movies.
only
Um,
Megan I know is Tim Dillon dressed as Megan McCain.
right, right. Yeah, she's Megan McCain, not the opposite. She's the opposite of that.
Megan
And
Fox?
so, huh?
Megan
I think
Fox?
Megan Fox. We'll say Calypso's the Megan Fox.
Okay.
And so he realizes, like he's captive to that. And so he leaves this perfect island of, it's kind of like an Eden. Everything is perfect, but he, on a high level, he realizes he's enthralled to something that isn't the real thing. And so this is where the sublime comes in, and we have this in Greek tragedy. Let's say Prometheus, he's suffering, he steals fire from the gods in order to give it to mankind, despite the fact that mankind doesn't really even understand what it's been given, right? And that Prometheus is suffering with a crow or eagle eating at his liver every day, right? And he's being told like, hey, just uh, like quit causing trouble. Pretty much, they want him to give up certain information, but like, hey, if you fall in line, like all this is over. You get to rule with us, and everything's going to go back to normal. So like, why don't stop? Just get with the program. And Prometheus says no. And he eventually he knows he's going to be freed. There's a lost fragment. Hercules comes and rescues him. But the Prometheus means foresight. So the name itself, so he foresees the downfall of the Olympians, and he sees the goodness that is in mankind, even when mankind is still largely ignorant of that and still very much just like a beast. So that's a profound example of the sublime, and I think despite being a very old story, it's very relevant today. if we're thinking about getting to the higher level and the deeper thing, these are things to meditate on, because yeah, there is going to be suffering. Like, it's not, the point isn't to have a nice ride, um but you're driven by something higher. There's a higher calling, right? So here, mentor Athena, who's like the wise god of all the degenerate gods, she's the only one that really has wisdom, and is committed to sort of beauty and truth in these things. So that's the aristocratic and philosophical souls are embody that higher sort of the kind of education of the soul and the heart, where they live the distinction that Plato makes, that's I think useful for our audience as well, is between doxa and episteme. Simply, doxa is opinion. So orthodoxy means you have the right opinion. So the oligarchs, the plutocrats, the democrats, they all live in the world of opinion, right? Different forms of opinion, and controlling images. So the oligarchs, they control the images, the shadows on the cave wall, right? That this is the parable that, so the bad guys are controlling the shadows, and the higher levels of soul know that the shadows aren't the real thing. And the thing is, though, if you choose that path and you make it out of the cave and you see there's something more, then the paradox is, well, do you go back into the cave and try to convince people, who many of whom will hate you, will call you names, or just won't care? Or do you just join the managers, and help to manage the images, and you live a
Mm-hmm.
cushy life? You're on the yacht, as Nick Bryant would say. Even
Yeah.
if you do really bad things,
Yeah.
um, as long as you stay in line, you're going to be fine. You're on that yacht. If you leave that yacht, we'll probably kill you, or you'll have to do. It's not going to be nice. The,
No.
the the dream, the illusion, will come crashing down in a fucking horrific way. Beyond what, yeah, it's we don't really want to have knowledge of these things, right? So that you don't want to eat those fruits, have that kind of knowledge of the darker things.
Hmm.
Uh, so that's the thing. And so if you're going to take that path of the sublime, of breaking away from illusions, having had the experience oneself, and being more mindful of where different people are at in the hierarchy, and so what challenges they have, it's a lot of, it's something, it takes time, it's a lot of work, but it's more um, fulfilling, right? Because yeah, it doesn't go away. The magic for that doesn't fade like it does with all these other things. Like you were just describing, there's certain things like it comes and it goes, right? But it's always ups and downs, ups and downs. But for the aristocratic, the philosophical soul, the idea is that you don't need the ups and downs, or even if it's down, if it's up, that doesn't change your bearing and your outlook. Whereas if you live in the world of opinion, of doxa, if you have a shitty life, well, things are shitty, right? Or you have a shitty attitude. But if you get lucky, or if you're well off, well, then things are good, right? That's the democratic soul. At the end of the day, your personal experiences of positive and negative affectations of, like, well, that person was nice to me, they're not that bad, or like, I had a very nice time at this whatever Dionysian orgy. They seem like nice people. You know what I mean? Like, so it's just pure opinion, and these people are obviously much easier to control, right? Even within the higher echelons of power, they're still operating in illusions and ignorance and in imitation. They just happen to be the ones who can also control the narratives, so that their power and splendor is sort of unchallenged. It's still opinion, right? They're not timocrats, they're not aristocrats, and they're not philosopher kings. But there are those, right? So I do think it's useful for anyone, right, to keep in mind, like, hey, there is this hierarchy. Where do we fall in it? And depending on where we fall, what are the obstacles that tend to come with our 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 situation?
You almost wonder if you get out of the cave. I mean, yeah, morally, do you have to go back and tell people? I think you do, but I think after that, I think you're almost free from a moral obligation because there are some people who are probably going to hear you and not believe you. There are going to be people who hear you and go, "Why are you fucking waking me up from my slumber? What? Yeah, I know what this is. Fuck off."
Right. Okay, that's good.
And there's going to be, yeah, there's probably going to be people that are going like, "Yeah, I know this isn't real, but I also know I'm never getting out of this. You know, I'm a single mom with 5 kids. Like, don't fucking come, don't interrupt my nightly wine." Like, and now you're the asshole. And you kind of are. You're like, who am I to, right? I'm 33. I'm single. I'm my own boss. I maybe shouldn't go like rattle the cage of someone and be like, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? They're
Right.
probably like, dude, just fucking let me like smoke my pot. It's my Friday night. Yeah, I know
Yeah.
the world isn't perfect. Will you fuck off? And then maybe
Yeah.
you start looking at the other managers and you go, oh, you're not evil. They're just like, hey, are they? Yeah, what's that line in Inception where he like stumbles? I haven't seen that movie in forever, but he like stumbles into some like sleep bar or something, whatever. It's like an underground operation. And everyone's like sleeping, right? And they're
Right.
like hallucinating their own lives. And the guy, I think he's like, I think it's like Leonardo is like, they're all just sleeping, like it's not real. And like the owner is like, who are you to tell them it's not real?
Right. Well,
Like,
that's
who are you to tell
yeah.
them it's
And
not
so
real?
why? Yeah. So why break out of that? Why break out of our illusions? What is there a cell?
Well, it's because personally, just like they're allowed to stay in that, your journey might be this might be your movie of like breaking out. And that's good for you. So yeah, break out if you want to break out, you know, go to the gym if that's what you want to do, but don't do it because you think there's some objective right. Like I go to the gym. I've fucking played like one sport in my life in like middle school, but I go to the gym every day because I like it. I like what it does for me.
Yeah.
I like how I feel. I like how mentally I feel. I like the sense of accomplishment. But that's for me. There's no like once I
Right.
go to the gym 9,000 times, I can go to the Olympic. No, it's like it's a personal thing, Like
Yeah. And I mean, because I did have, we're getting to the same kind of juncture that I got to when we're having this discussion with someone else, which is that, yeah, like you don't want to be that guy who's bothering people.
yeah.
But that's, I think the
Have you
reality
heard
is
of
that,
our Lord and Savior? Knock, knock,
yeah,
knock. I'm
exactly.
trying to fuck a hooker in here. Will you go away?
Yeah. And so, I mean, I think, well, again, I think that's also not, yeah, not everybody's on the same level. That's normal. Like, yeah, if somebody has the thing about having a family, that's also an important aspect of all this technically. Because, yeah, and Tim Dillon talks about this as well. Where there's a lot of people that they want to transcend and take this like radical, individualized, sort of self actualized path. But he's like, and they have terrible lives. They're like homeless walking dogs. When they could have a very nice life, like they could have a good job, they could have a family, and they give it all up because they have like they're part of a cult, right? This self actualization cult. Which, if we look into that, it's the usual suspects who are sort of
Crazy.
like the the whole Luciferian, because there's different kinds of self actualization, right? Like for the Luciferian extreme, like the self is the end, alpha and omega, right? It's the end all and be all. So there's the worship of the self. The other extreme, right, where you get like the super fundy, dogmatic, sort of whatever, evangelical or
Hmm.
whatnot, it's all God and abstraction. But then when you meet another individual who's supposed to be, a unique image of God and therefore have the divine in them, and you have the divine in you, I have the divine in me, we don't care, right?
Fuck
Because
them. Maybe they
we
should get
don't
a job.
we don't see that image of God. So they're not very spiritual, right?
No.
They're fundamentalist in their outlook, but they're not very spiritual people. It's a cult, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's not the so at a certain level, the Socratic negation, right? The first approximation of getting to truth is being able to be like, well, that's not the real thing. Like I may not have all the answers, but clearly that's not the real thing. So then there is that middle ground where you, yeah, we're saying, so yeah, you have these different people, and how do you deal with that? What was it? There was a thing. What did you just say before? There was something that you said that triggered it. I know what I want to say, but you had said, what was the last thing that you said to me?
The last thing I said to you, I don't know, the single mom, 5 kids, don't wake them up. Maybe you're
Yeah,
hanging out with the other manager. It's like what Tim Dillon goes. He goes, I'd be
yeah,
so easily co-opted. Somebody came in because if I was president, somebody just come in and they go, hey, listen, fuck these people. And you go, yeah, all right. I don't know, something
yeah.
like that.
Well, no, but that was the thing. So yeah, you have different types of people, and we have to know who we're speaking to, and everybody has their own capacity as well, right? Like that, I think that's part of. So yeah, there's some people that they go on the self actualize. Some people having a family narrows your sphere of concern, right? Like you're
Hmm.
not rightly so, right? It very much anchors you into the moment, into
Fuck
reality.
everyone else. I just gotta raise this kid.
Yeah, you have to protect and provide for your family, and the family is the basic unit in society.
Yeah.
That's the thing that the shift that has happened in Western society is like the individual has been made the basic unit, but in reality it's not, because you can't reproduce society with individuals. Societies reproduce at the level of family. Anything less than family is not, society can't reproduce itself. So
Hmm.
it's not the correct unit. So if we start with the basic family unit, and if you start to fuck around with that, right, which is what has happened, especially in our age of abundance, where people have had the luxury of adopting all sorts of crazy identities and ideas that in a simpler time you don't have the luxury. And that doesn't mean let us extol this, squalor and, older time where, you had more traditional families, and yet there's like child slave labor and
Yeah.
vampire cults. Like you can't
Yeah.
even talk about pedophilia. It's not even real.
Yeah.
It's just people trying to slander other people.
Yeah.
We don't want that. But yeah, so that having a basic family structure is definitely something that I think, yeah, we in the West, like that's really taken a lot of damage, and it's fucked up a lot of people who could just have very happy lives, right? And so it's not just a single mom struggling to raise kids. That's the other thing, right? If you want people to participate in society, they can't be struggling for survival. But once they're not struggling for survival, there's the luxury of checking out. And so the true aristocratic education, and this comes full circle to what I wanted to say based on what you said. We can't convert. Nobody's converting anybody to anything. But St. Augustine has this great quote: "The truth is like a lion. You don't need
You
to
need to
defend it.
defend it. You just gotta let it out of
Let
its
it
cage.
loose; it'll defend itself." And there's an enthusiasm, right? If you're truly enthusiastic about beauty, truth, and goodness, and because you love the real thing, it radiates.
Oh,
It's
it's
contagious.
contagious. You can't fake it.
Yeah. So you don't. so the true aristocratic soul doesn't really need to argue with people and try to sell them or pitch them something, even though
Yeah.
selling and pitching is fun sometimes.
Sure.
Uh, you come from that higher transcendent
When you
place of
see a
truth.
motherfucker just glowing and you're like, what do you do? And they're like, oh, I just, I do yoga every morning. You're like, that's the sales for yoga. Got it. Right?
Yeah,
Like something like
exactly.
that.
Yeah, and because people don't take advice anyways, right? We've all
No,
been
like
given
fuck
advice,
everybody.
and
Yeah.
but it's not even how do we know why should we trust that person, right? Like everybody's giving advice,
Yeah.
everybody's fucked, so why would we take advice? So what people do notice though is when they're in the presence of the real thing,
Yeah.
in terms of like they see a person is like when I talk to somebody, I see my thinking as being improved or challenged, or I'm noticing things that I didn't, subtle things, right? It's just little things, right? And if we pursue these things and we find we become, uh, we start to understand things that we didn't before, you keep going and you keep going. And that way you get more people get excited about beauty, truth, and goodness, about the real thing. Then it's organic, right? And you don't have to force anything. So that's the true aristocratic sort of mentality and disposition. It's not this preachy cult stuff. And the thing is that so we could say, well, it sounds like a lot of work or it is difficult, right? We started right at the beginning that the struggle for fulfillment is much harder than the struggle for survival. And I think that's true. And that's why, given that we are in this age of abundance where people have the opportunity for fulfillment, but they also have the opportunity to just like uh, plateau
Hmm.
and regress, most people will tend to plateau because it's hard to break into the higher sort of spheres. But why we should, I mean, if it's just a basic argument, I think if we zoom out, it becomes clear. Like culture is generational, families are generational, things, they'll go nice for a while. But if we look at societies and how they rise and fall, the ideas matter. Like the ideas and the culture are ultimately what will decide where things go. So being able to paint the correct picture or the bigger picture and get people to see themselves in the bigger picture instead of just their more limited, narrow self-conception and narrative that they've been given, perhaps, right? Where if they become able to revisit that, as we all need to always revisit our narratives and our stories, then you start to get more motion, right? Things become more creative, more fluid, and you get changes, you get qualitative changes in the kind of things that people talk about, right? In the kind of art that is becomes popular. And so it's slow, but at the same time, it's more enduring, and it's not selling people, fake shit or fake magic that will make them just feel good, which is what the democratic society is all about. Demos, democratic being demo, coming from demos, which is mob. So it's just mob opinion. Well, people like this, people like fucking burgers and DARPA and like porn or whatever. And
Yeah.
so that's just the
Burgers,
way it
DARPA,
is.
and porn.
They don't know, but they do love DARPA.
Yeah.
Just don't
No,
know it.
yeah, they don't know it by design. But yeah, that no, I like the whole radiating something. That is it. Is like I've tried unsuccessfully like a dipshit, and I don't do it anymore. I've tried so hard. I tried so hard for so long to like try to convince people. I'll be like, dude, just go to the gym and like meditate and diet. Like the pain is good. It will hurt at first, but like there's a there's like a leveling up. There's like and I it's finally dawned on me after trying to get people to do it for like 15 years. Like, dude, if you want it, the thing about like survival is like you have to survive. your body will kick in. Doesn't matter how much you don't want to go hunting. Like if you're if you haven't eaten in a week, right? You're just gonna the body's just gonna say, fuck it, we're going. We're doing this. With fulfillment, when you can just plateau, you're not if you don't get fulfilled, then you couldn't maybe argue you get depressed and suicidal, and thus that's antithetical to survival. Okay, maybe. But for the most part, like you can just not get fulfilled. You can go, I'm just gonna play video games. I'll do it tomorrow. And you can do it tomorrow for 50 years. Just go, just order a burger. We'll hit the gym tomorrow. You don't have if you don't physically survive, you'll die. If you don't get fulfillment, you can just find a new Netflix series. Like you don't have to do it. So then who does it?
No, yeah, you don't have to do anything, right?
Yeah.
That's we don't have to do anything.
No.
And I think that's where the light touch comes in, right? Like the sage, or I like to imagine like the sage or philosopher or whatnot, they're not going to go on a whole spiel, right? But Confucius had the rectification of names. We got to call things by their name, right? For society to function well, things have to be called by their proper name. And when they're not, you start to see that quickly things fall in disarray. Uh, he makes the point that uh, music suffers, punishments are not accorded properly, so the laws aren't followed properly. People don't know how to move hand and foot at a certain point because it's not clear what we're supposed to be doing as a society or where we're going. And so just calling, sure, okay, you want some soma, you're going to have a cookie, that's okay. But at least call it what it is, right? It's soma. Call it the thing. It's a soma cookie, and that's okay, right? We all have soma cookies every now and then. Arguably, that's the thing. Like we all, yeah. There's spiritual McDonald's, and it's okay to have it, but let's not lie to ourselves.
Yeah.
And I think that's actually, if we love truth, part of loving truth and whatnot, like nobody's perfect, right? In the Christian sense, we live in a fallen world. So to expect everybody to be perfect or to expect ourselves to be perfect is actually not correct because we're not. And to think that we are, or Tim Dillon in the Jules by Tim
Jules
Dillon
by Tim Dillon.
podcast, at a certain point he has a line where he's like, I just helped so many people
I have to.
that like I
Am
think
I
I might.
God? Am
Oh
I
my God.
am I
It's
God? Because I'm not human. It gets tricky.
yeah. And so that's not a good thing. So yeah, we live in a fallen world, we could say, and everything isn't perfect, but simply by calling things by their name and letting the truth sort of transfigure whatever it is, we become lighter.
Yeah.
We become less beholden to these things. And yeah, the real thing, it seems more and more beautiful and appealing, especially as we become aware of how quickly the magic of everything else fades.
Yeah.
And I think that's a life thing that's normal. Like,
Yeah.
if we're honest, we can say, yeah, so the magic of all these different things fades. It's okay when you're like 20 and like it's and that's normal because
Yeah.
young people they're barely aware of what's happening inside them, let alone the world,
Yeah.
and that's normal. But they're supposed to have the good habits so that they can continue to cultivate themselves and they don't fall into like they don't fall in love with the world or into whatever it is they're things that they like, that they become things of objects of worship, right? Idol worship. So that's the other thing, like you talked about working out, and yeah, we see, even though we see like with the alt-right kids, the 17-year-old gamers that want to restore the monarchy kind of thing, and the people that they follow, it's like working out like the new like cool fascist sort of alt-right thing. Working out's a big deal,
Yeah.
but then it's like anything else. You have all these people, these gurus that turn physical fitness and health and beauty into the object of worship,
Hmm.
right? Instead of and so it's no longer the real thing. Taking care of yourself, being healthy, and doing things that are good for your body, knowing that your body is, connected to your
Is your
soul and
temple, yeah.
they're not separate. Um, that's important. But then so different people plateau in different things. Other people like psychology, right? And so they're all they're aware of all their psychological things, but like psychoanalysis is like a religion for them. And they see everything through the lens of psychoanalysis. And it's like, well, that's not the real thing either, right? Like, yeah, Timmy is whatever, and we get it, it's complicated, mom, dad. But there's still something deeper. We all still have that same innate human desire for the real thing. And we can, when we have the soma cookie, we should be aware, and it's totally normal to be like, hey, I'm having this soma cookie to fulfill this immortal desire inside myself, and that desire will subside for a bit, but I also know that it's going to come back as long as I don't um, start on this more regular lasting diet of the real thing. And if I do that, and how it's going to change me rather than me want, deciding how I want to change, how it's going to change me and letting that happen, then that becomes easier to, uh, you can have that discussion with other people, right? Who also yearn, right? They also have the hunger for the same thing. They also have soma cookies. So we're all the same in that sense. But we also all know that there's something higher, and we want to get acquainted with that as well. And the more we get acquainted with that, right, the less appealing the soma stuff looks, right? Like it's still nice to have McDonald's here and then, but if you're taking care of yourself and everything, like McDonald's a lot is, I mean, it's a lot. Your body is not even used to having that much fat and salt and everything, so you don't actually feel the same. Like especially if you're working out, your body kind of craves like, I want a salad, like I want something green that's gonna sort of, I need like steak, I need like
Yeah.
protein.
That is, I like that you said that. That's something, that's something I've been trying to do more. I guess really in 2023 maybe. But like not not lying to myself and just being like, yeah, no, like I'm taking tomorrow off, and yeah, probably just gonna lay in bed and just scroll through Instagram. Like it's a nice digital value. And just calling it what it is. Like, like it's September, right? Next month is October. We're coming up on all the holidays, Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, and they're never as good as you want them to be, but you know what? It's
Yeah.
fun thinking about how they'll be good. Right? It's like I think I'm gonna take tomorrow off. And just the thought of it today, I'm liking. I saw a
Yeah.
meme where someone goes, let's just be honest. The night before the day off is so much better than the day off because you're thinking about tomorrow's, and just lean into that. That doesn't rob it of anything. Just go, it's what it is. When I find a new video game that I'm like, oh, I can like level up and get new guns. Like I just call it what it is now. I'm like, fuck yeah, I got another like hamster wheel I can get on for a little while, so I don't have to like think about like the decaying universe. Just call it what it is, man. And like you almost kind of enjoy it more, but you don't grab at it when it's fading. You go, yeah, it's gonna die, and that's okay. Just call it what it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. And I mean, again, we know that there's, again, if we're just calling things by their name, we know that there are certain foods that, yeah, you don't get filled up on, spiritually speaking. C.S. Lewis had a good, he made a good point in, it's called, it's called The Weight of Glory. It's one of his sermons. It's very interesting. And he talks about the idea of longing. So the word he uses is a German word, Sehnsucht, which is just longing. Um, and the idea, because he mentions that a lot of people will say people are not, their desire for goodness, truth, and beauty, and spiritual, and all that is or people. Sorry, he said a lot of people's desires are too strong. right? So like they're kept in a sort of animal state, um, where they're just always chasing that next hit of pleasure, of distraction. And so the idea being, so people's desires are the things that, the strength of their desires is the main obstacle. But he makes the point that actually it's the opposite. It's that the desires are not strong enough. Their hunger for the real thing is not strong enough. And but if you cultivate that, you have a lasting sort of, yeah, you become only more hungry. That's the point. We're supposed to stay hungry for the real thing, and we don't get exhausted by it like all the other stuff that it fades. Like you go from starving to like now you're full and fat and disgusting. There's none of that with the real thing. You can't overdose on goodness, truth, and beauty. Everything else you can, but you can't overdose on the real thing.
Yeah.
And it's going to change us. And so again, yeah, I think the appetites can be, yeah, these things are cultivated. It's a palate. And at the end of the day, if we just talk like that, and if it's a light touch, right, we're just observing, we're calling things by their name, and we're not like crazy, sort of like scorching hellfire through your eyes, sort of
Yeah,
like,
like you
and kind.
whore. Yeah.
Yeah, you're just calling things by their name, and that that actually helps for a lot of people because they don't have to feel like shit every time they have a soma cookie, but they also are always there. It's more present in their mind that there's something more, and that becomes the real mystery,
Yeah.
right? Because people need mystery in their lives, and so we can also observe that the soma cookies, they just sort of mask that desire for having knowledge of the real mysteries, right? The deeper thing inside us and the world. And so there's a lot of fake mystery stuff as well, right? You have different mystery cults. Like that's what like the early sort of Christianity was fighting against and what had destroyed Greece, like these Eleusinian mystery cults and stuff. And if you look today, like Jordan Peterson was interviewing this guy, Brian Murarescu, and like all the psychedelic stuff, the idea that Jesus was an initiate in like Eleusinian mysteries, which had to do with different drugs. So like it's a shamanist
Yeah.
culture. And so you have the rise of this today where to feed that desire for mystery and that longing, that now that we're transitioning from the age of abundance into an age of scarcity, where everything's more expensive and like the slave labor stuff like that's kind of going out with a new BRICS Eurasia system coming online, Shanghai Cooperation Organization, New Silk Road, all that stuff. So the West can't rely on that kind of free trade system anymore. So now there's these new mysteries that are being brought back. They're not new mysteries. They're very old. They're very like Dionysian, sort of old school, real priesthood, sort of pagan, crazy Gnostic shit. And this is being brought back into the mainstream. And so the mystery thing, once we're identifying, so people have a longing for something more, and that's becoming easier to talk about. At the same time, you see the bad guys now coming in with their new pitch, psychedelics and all these things as a means of, Huxley calls it a truth and beauty pill in the island. So this is the thing that will give you the feeling of full self-actualization and fulfillment. And you take it in practice with like tantric sex and meditation, mindfulness, it's all there. And then you see in the book The Island, I recommend it to people. Apparently there's a movie on it as well. But like, so how do you know that's not the real thing, right? If people feel fulfilled, if people feel spiritual, then maybe they think they have the real thing. And so we're back to square one. So it can get confusing. And I'm intentionally, now it's confusing, right? But
No, no, It's
how do we know it's the real thing once we accept that we do have this deeper desire and that the Soma cookies are getting old and stale, or there's no more Soma cookies? So we know we need the real thing. What happens when somebody offers us a pill? Well, here's a truth and beauty pill, and you will feel like you're spiritual and have transcended. And so you can just now be in an open relationship, take DMT and play the bongos, and you're going to be fully self-actualized.
but there's something about meditation that is so deep, and I can't even get it every time. I rarely get it. But when you do get it, it's like how you said, like you can never have enough beauty, truth, and goodness. That is like no matter how many times I've hit that moment in meditation, that's where you just like you're just looking around at even the joy of like realizing you're in a three-dimensional universe. Like, oh, I can walk over there. You're just watching the sunshine. It is so real and it is so overwhelmingly beautiful. And you go, I could never get enough of this if I tried. And there is something about it. And then it follows up with and I did this just sitting here focusing. That was a great pill. I need to get more of these so I never run out. That's part of you go, I can just do this. That's part of like the core of it is it's real. It's not like, oh, what if they make it illegal? Make what illegal?
Mm.
Focusing on existing.
Right.
There's and that is like why it seems to be the most real thing is whenever I think of, reading old like Bible quotes about like the kingdom of God, I always think like this is what it is. It's not that you die and you go to some pearly gates. It's waking up and seeing like puffy clouds and a breeze and a bird chirps and the sun on your skin and you get goosebumps and your hair stands up and like this is the kingdom of God. It's within you. It's not a pill. It's a form. Is it meditation? Is it prayer? I don't know which. I haven't perfected it, but you can wake up. I mean, I've done my fair share of heroic doses of acid and psilocybin, and they're beautiful. They don't hold a fucking candle to a truly deep meditation. I mean, they're great. They're great. But when you have a real meditation, you go, that's the real thing. You go, oh, that was an imitation. That was some dried out shrooms I bought from my buddy Ryan at UGA. Cool. A real meditation is so unbelievably like to the core. It's like true laughter with friends or like, a first date or something. It's not captured on camera. It's not on TV. It's just the realest fucking thing you've ever felt.
Mm.
And you know that you go, that's what's real. Sitting alone with like your dog or something, just scratching his head. That's more real than anything. And that doesn't mean the soma cookies aren't fun.
Yeah.
But I think to me that's like what beauty, truth, and goodness is it's just so woven in to like life itself. You're like, no one could ever give this to you and no one could ever take it away. Like
Mm.
that is the essence.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think it helps to color it in, like the bigger picture. For example, like in Huxley's Island, a lot of it is it's very well done, when he describes meditation and like all the different like for mountain climbing and different things for people who have different temperaments and to know their bodies and to know how they are and all the awareness that you can practice and how far that can take you in terms of developing a deeper self. But then there are also tells, like there are no families, there are no individual families in the island. It's like a global village, and
Mm.
so you have adoptive families, and if the child doesn't like his or her family, they can choose a different family. And so you can move around, and there are no mothers. Mother is a verb, it's not a noun. So, like,
Mm,
children are mothered, but we get rid of the mother because the mother itself is a destructive influence on the whole tribe. Because basically the idea is that the mothers can make the children too soft, and like they baby them. Like, poor, there's a scene where the guy was sad and he had hurt himself or something bad happened when he was little, and the mother's like, "Oh, poor baby," and the interlocutor says, "And you've felt, and you've been a poor baby this whole time, haven't you?" And the guy's like, "Yeah." Right. So he uses, it's a pretty cynical but evil, ultimately nefarious thing that Huxley's doing there, where it's like we have to look at the whole to understand the nature of the parts. And oftentimes people were sold different things that sound good as standalones, but then what's the whole package? Like, yeah, we're going to grow more trees and we're going to have cleaner air, uh but what about that, like cutting our uh you know the emissions for growing food by 75%, if that's going to like totally collapse industrial agriculture and food production? So we're going to have clean air because like two-thirds of the population has died off. Like, is that so? Coloring in things and playing them out helps. And I think, especially with the self-actualization stuff, this is real, because if people aren't having families, right, and they're pursuing their DMT sort of open relationship, playing, picking up bongos as a hobby or whatever they're doing, um, that's very evil. And I think part of the good thing about art, we don't need to cast aspersions, but art helps to, like, it's good to have a healthy disgust with certain things, right? You see certain things are bad. You don't want to shame people and just be like this righteous finger pointer, but we want to call things by their name. And we want to be able to play things out and zoom out as well, press pause, zoom out, see what the whole thing actually looks like. So the way the self-actualization stuff is today, it's very much about getting people to pursue this um, individualized path, but promoting that as a means of breaking apart the family structure and introducing this new sort of eugenic Julian Huxley sort of babies in pods kind of thing. Like, that's real, right? We see fertility rates are going down, and all the tech for like having the baby outside of the womb, and
mm.
then like what in the Brave New World, right? Depending on what kind of baby they want to create, they give it different vitamins or things. They withhold certain things or they add more. So now you start to like genetically modify embryos. And so if you throw that into the mix, people are like, well, hang on. It sounds they're a bit more cautious. Like,
Yeah.
where is this all going? And so yeah, because they're definitely like uh, for a lot of people, going back to the Tim Dillon point, a lot of people could be very happy, if they actually had a family and just got a job where actually they can sort of make their own life, and then they don't have to get so obsessed about, are they fully transcended or not? Um, and in the sense, you can still do a lot of the things that are fulfilling when you do have a family. So Tim Dillon, he's a fat, gay, ex-cocaine addict, but he's calling things by their name, and he's seeing that like a lot of people were sold a dream, right? They were given, you can do whatever you
Yeah,
want,
you can be whatever you
right?
want to
You
be.
and it's like self-awareness goes out the door, and covetousness, right? Like, rather than sort of knowing thyself and cultivating the gifts that we do have, and creating helping to contribute to future generations, and by, actually raising good kids and stuff, that is replaced with this kind of radical self-actualization cult. And people are a lot less happy, and you see this as well with a lot of women, where like they're shamed for not having families, and it's like, what, you're going to be like an SEO marketing expert? Like, you think that's, you're independent and you do what you want, and you think you're going to be fulfilled by like doing SEO stuff for Google or working for some startup? And like, society's just not going to like have healthy families anymore. We're just going to have this weird cultish Brave New World thing. Is that so? And you only realize later, right? For some of these illusions, like, there are biological clocks, there are things. So we have generations right now where, yeah, it looks like a lot of people are not making the right choices, or they may make choices that they regret, um, because they've been sold this false, this illusion, this false dream of like full transcendence. And yeah, I think that's, these are things to be aware of today when we think of Huxley. And
I say we wrap it up with this is I don't remember which Tim Dillon rant it is, but he's going like you don't need to understand the source of every little feeling. You don't have to understand how come I felt this today or am I gonna reach like the mountaintop? It's like sometimes it's just okay to go, yeah, that's shit, and then just go to work. He's like, you don't need to walk every little thing out of like, well, what if I was a painter and I like left my like it's okay. He goes, we see it a lot with like YouTube or Instagram or TikTok. He goes, things that used to pop into your head, like what if I just watched somebody eat like ramen noodle till they died? He goes, you used to just go, that's a weird thought, and you just get rid of it. He goes, but now we have mukbang channels. He goes, we've done this weird thing where if we want to, I mean, even now, like what are we seeing? Like the NPC, gang gang ice cream so good. It's like, let's watch that. And he's like,
yeah,
you goes, for all of human history, you'd have thoughts about like, I wonder what that would be like. He goes, and then you just go, I don't like that thought. And you throw it out the window. He goes, that applies to, am I being fulfilled? Am I like seizing the day today? It's like, it's okay to just go, eh. Yeah, where did that feeling come from? I wonder, do I not have a strong relationship with my dad, or was I angry at my mom? It's like it's okay to just go like, yeah, no, it's just like 4 p.m. on a Wednesday. It's okay to just go, oh, look at that thought. There it goes. I lost my brother to suicide 9 years ago. Sometimes it just pops into my head. I don't have to go, let's pause everything. Let's break it. I just go, yeah, that sucked. Did a lot of therapy, but I think I've moved on. Like, there it is. Yeah, it's there. Now the thought's going away. Like,
right.
and it's okay to just not.
In a word,
Yeah.
be more Asian. Your emotions are impoverishing you. Tim Dillon.
Yeah.
Words of Tim Dillon. Words of the prophet.
I hadn't heard that one before, but god damn. Yeah. Yeah. Thoughts and emotions are impoverishing you. Get rid of them. Be cold and aloof.
Amen. Let us transcend.
Let us transcend. For the Church of Tim Dillon is now out of session. Thank you all for attending. David and I are devout followers of him, and you should be too. Guys, if you go in the description, you can find links to David's shit. You can go read it. I don't mean shit. I mean his writing. That was perhaps the wrong word. It's all good shit. Dude, as always, man, I love having you on here, and we'll do it
Yeah, nice
again.
chatting. Talk
All right.
soon.
All right, brother. Thank you so much. Guys, go support the good man. Go read his stuff. Go subscribe, all that good stuff. Till next